Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another session of this 2023 Extempore PD Extravaganza. Today, we are graced by the presence of Dora Phobin, French teacher from Mayfair High School, and also an Extempore ambassador here with us. She's been fantastic to work with the past 2 years. I have really loved getting to know her and work with her. She's a joy. And I think we're going to learn a lot today about using authentic resources to engage and empower students on Extempore. So with that being said, Dora, you are welcome to take the floor.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to have you here today. Taking time from your summer vacation to join me. I'm Dora Bile-Forbin, French teacher at Mayfair Middle and High School at Bellflower School District in California. And I've been one of the extempore ambassadors for the past 2 years, as Gwen just mentioned. And in this session, we will explore how to use authentic resources from the classroom to extempore. The purpose is to share what I do in my class. So relax, grab strategies, creative ways to engage and empower students on the app. This is what we are going to see today. We have 6 items, and so please keep your questions for the end. They will be answered. And also we have a feedback form at the end of this presentation that's going to be very helpful. So we have common grounds, importance, benefits of authentic resources in L2. We are going to explore authentic resources and cultural competence for selecting and adapting those authentic resources. Practical examples that I have on Extempore, which amplifies the use of authentic resources. And then we have the takeaways, the questions, the feedback. You can go through the QR code or just use a Tina link. So in this presentation, you will see or hear things that you already know or probably already doing. Nevertheless, there might be something that you may change, modify, or learn, or just have an aha moment. Here, I put on my future glasses as Matt Miller, the Ditch That Book says. And I got an AI ChatGPT to generate this definition. So please take a moment to read and just focus on any keywords. We may agree or disagree with this AI definition. There are some shifts, like the native speakers, creator. Nevertheless, my keywords here are real world, exposure, genuine language, deeper understanding, target culture, and unaltered, which means no changes, not edited, but adaptations are okay. Let's have a quick recap of the actual core practices in our L2 instruction. So today we will only focus on the green check mark. Use authentic cultural resources. This quote from actual site. I like to emphasize on students have the opportunities to do something with the language, empowering them. Some current textbooks have integrated cultural resources into the units. However, the question may be on the relevance of the content of the resources that are given to us. So just in case, I need your participation, audience. Where do you belong? Please choose a meme and in 1 or 2 words, say why, explain your choice. So let's have a chat waterfall, please. Are you A, B, or C? Okay, I already see a question. It's going to come up. Oh, I see a lot of A's. Uh-oh, someone is all the threes, okay. B, Sherry says B. Grant is usually A. Yes. C is like, I got something, but let me see if I can get better. That's what C means. And I see someone that can decide. Okay, I just said, oh, yes. We have a lot of places or resources where we can go and find, So yes, when teachers think of authentic resources, they have mixed feelings and the affective filter is super high. So teachers don't want to overwhelm students or discourage or intimidate them. Their thoughts are in a state of flux with questions. Is the selected material comprehensible? Do I know students' proficiency levels? Oh no, what about stereotypes or bias? So, did you choose your A, B, or C? It does not matter. Check these speech bubbles. We have here what we usually feel or go through. Inappropriate text, no time, vocabulary not aligned, or unneeded vocabulary, complex language structures. Yet, we all relate. My hope is that by the end of this session today, you may find some answers. Now, can you please share one of your favorite authentic resources? Again, let's have it in the chat. What's your favorite authentic resource? Yeah, go to Infographics, interviews on YouTube. Grant says interview. Jason, infographics, okay. Oh, and Joanna too, that's for videos, YouTube. Oh my God, videos are winning here. Music, okay. So across the same music. Video clips. Okay. Thank you for your participation. Let's see Instagram. Oh, I didn't put that in my children's songs. So that's songs, okay. Yes. Thank you so much. Let's see what we have in the cloud. Now, if you check this word cloud, it shows a curated list of authentic resources, some of which you also mentioned or maybe missed. My current go-to are the TikTok and podcasts. I really love them right now with my students. So let's continue with, we are still with our common grounds. I like this definition of the continuum of voice in the classroom. But first, just listen to me read it. And while you're pondering on what you have to keep in mind when you want to move the student along from one stage of the continuum to the highest stage, which there are 8 of them. So the continuum of voice in the classroom refers to the range of ways in which students' voices and opinions are acknowledged, valued, and encouraged to be expressed. Within the learning environment, it represents the various levels of student involvement, participation, and agency in the classroom setting. A classroom that values, this is the part that I like, a classroom that values and promotes student voice tends to foster a positive and inclusive learning environment where students feel empowered and motivated to be actively engaged in their learning journey. So we're gonna keep this in mind, or whenever you want to have those authentic resources, are you hitting any of these continuum of voice in your classroom? Now let's see the importance and benefits of authentic resources in L2. All 3 of these are great, but I really stick with the third one: motivation, engagement, and relevance. Authentic materials can be more motivating and stimulating for learners as they include interest and relevant content. Learners are exposed to language they will encounter in real life and communicate effectively. Next, we have exploring authentic resources and cultural competence. In addition to what I just said, students have to be taught how to investigate the product, the practices, and interact with language and behaviors in order to understand cultural perspectives. I love the way my coworker, Sherry, sums it all. She always says, what is culture if students cannot see it, feel it, taste it, or experience it? I just love it. That's when you see if you're really hitting culture, when you actually teach. So selecting, how are we going to select or adapt authentic resources? It's very crucial. So needless to say, we don't want to get it wrong. Suggestions are to follow certain criteria when selecting authentic materials. And here I have Leslie Grant, who identified 4 A's. And so we have the material should be authentic, appealing, accessible, and aligned. Plus, we have to keep in mind our students' performance levels, and of course, the continuum voice, where you want to take your students to. And by choosing the appropriate resources, students will develop linguistic competence. They will build confidence because they are able to read and understand text written by native speakers without dictionaries or AI. And so next, making adaptations is also key. And Lucy says again, adapt the task, not the text. So knowing vocabulary for me really paves the way to comprehending the text. So students and teacher can identify unfamiliar words, pre-teach, research, expand. It's always great to incorporate visuals. And so you can use bold text, subtitles, or scaffolding is always key too. You have to provide guidance, the I, we, you, do all the time, and kind of students progress towards independent learning. And because we're talking about authentic resources, we should always kind of endeavor to include cultural analysis. So we can compare, contrast resources, and students will be able to make the differences in culture. So try the suggested adaptations in pieces of this information splash. And of course, it's a great way to engage students to facilitate and lead them to success. We should agree that sometimes we just need minimal adaptations with some of the authentic resources when students are well prepared to complete a task. So please pay attention to the sequence of the next slides. The examples are in French, I'm a writing teacher, but they can easily be modified for L2. So I will mention the type of authentic resource, the key activities or strategies, then the task on extempore, and I'm going to end with extension of the assignments. I will only share the key tasks for the sake of time. So now let's see some of these practical examples and how extempore amplifies the use of authentic resources. The first example is poetry, and here it's level 3-4. This is an example of poetry, an authentic resource on altered text. It focuses on the concept of negritude, racism, and stereotypes. What are the steps to adapt this text? How can I help students decode the message? Again, keep in mind students' levels and learning goals, always important. Before showing the original text, I start with a picture talk activity, interpretations plus making inferences. It is okay if some answers are in the shared language. This activity helps with a lesson focus and thus a hint to the key information, relevance, and real-life issues. The picture choice or visuals matters. They are aligned with the themes of the poem or the text. So for example, here we have first picture that shows racism, we have bullying, ugliness, and acceptance, tolerance. So I implement adaptations and plus scaffolding as shown from a selected slide of my lesson. So please take a look at this slide and type or say, you're gonna mute, I guess, Brent. Type how many adaptations you can see in this stanza. I want you to type a number. Do you see 20? Yes, Grant says 50 of it. So how many adaptations do you see? You see one. I think someone asked a question about the difference between adaptation and selecting. So I think we're gonna talk about it. You can type your answers in the chat. Do you see? Oh, someone says 3. Kevin said he sees 3. 12. Erin, Erin, no. Wait, Erin, maybe you're gonna teach me because I didn't see 12 here. Okay. Wow. Okay, I see another person saying 3. Okay, thank you. So, yeah. So Elise, 1, 2, 3. So Elise is 3. Oh, maybe 4. Kevin, you can change that. Okay, très bien. Oh my God, I'm saying très bien. Thank you. So if you look at this, I chunked. So I want you to look at the slide while I'm explaining the different things. So I chunked the text presented. Only one stanza at a time. That's already an adaptation of the text. Because remember the original text? So I only took one stanza at a time. The next adaptation is I use pop-up vocabulary. Share, I just put it in English. And so I just read, or we read in French, but the student have that support of the pop-up vocabulary. The color-coded words to help identify key vocabulary. I inserted images, visuals to facilitate vocabulary comprehension. And you see that the images are just by the line. So while we are reading, the students have that support. And I added questions by the side of the text to assess students' understanding of the content. While I'm teaching, I have to assess, to check for understanding. So in total, I have 5 adaptations to enable accessibility to students. Does this ensure that I will have 100%, 80% of the learners ready to comprehend the text? Nope. Just have to be patient. So students will demonstrate what they are learning. And so I just have to have another round if it doesn't go right. So circling, reteaching, practicing, assessing, and checking for understanding again. To further adapt the text, only assign the part of the stanza that highlights irony. On Extempore, students have a voice by recording their own version of the poem and including self-written ironies at the end of the poem. They use emotions fluency in the text to enhance their reading skills. So the extensions, I have 2 extensions here. The first one, I download some selected student recordings. Yes, you can do that on Extempore, anonymously, of course. Then I use this as listening and discussions, activities. In this case, the focus is on how students wrote their irony line. It stimulates and encourages critical thinking. Students are exposed to the language nuances. I close this activity with a voting exit ticket. And sometimes the students are, oh no, it's not fair. It's voting. They don't know who they are voting for. So, and then the B part, the second extension here, students make presentations on how these authentic resources relate to their own or other people's experiences or perspective. And thus, this is personal response adaptations. And of course, because it was on racism or bullying and, tolerance. So it is personal response adaptations. The second one, my second example of authentic resources is caricatures. And here we have two images, and I'm gonna mix the different activities I did so that I didn't have to show two different slides for that. So here it's a digital newspaper. I really like to work on caricatures. And of course, it's, the French strikes. So la réforme des retraités, retirement reform, and inflation. So the first picture is about retirement reforms, and the second is on inflation. So the adaptation here, I start with a jigsaw, jigsaw images. I divide the picture into sections. I can use letters and numbers. Then I have students create a list of things they see on the assigned picture. Then move to picture talk. So from jigsaw image, we move to picture talk after they have done their work. They take turns per group. Then we have a class sharing and discussions. Students use sentence frames. Je vois, I see, une carte, I see a place, or, etc. I circle. So while students are giving me those answers, I circle the identified images or labels. I can figure one. Then I evaluate unknown or unidentified items. Then I ask other groups to jump in or figure out the answer. I am the last person, or as the teacher, to participate when the students can figure out the answer. If you look at the second image, that's figure number 2, the same steps for grouping students, but this time students write down a list of words that match a line picture. For example, they can complete a guided table titles, maybe nouns, adjective, etc., or advanced list, maybe cause and effect. And in this case, it's on gasoline, food, rent, salary. This time, students may get in a larger group with those that have the same numbers to revisit their list, the draft, one final list, and then the student leader is the one to submit to me for checking. Keep in mind that at this point, students may be giving some answers in the shared language. I have to listen, I have to say, and then I write the answers in French. Based on student-generated content, you look at from image figure 2, I make a table of sentences. If you look at figure A, that shows all the groups, the answers that I got from all the groups based on the images. So this time I start with a listening activity to the sentences. I will use a PDF immersive reading. We take turns in reading. Students take turns in reading. Next, as a class, the given sentences are used now to generate new sentences. So students kind of generate, kind of organic sentences or short paragraphs from figure A. And if you look at figure B, while students, this is a direct live activity. The students participate by looking at the sentences, and when they say any of the part of the sentences that can create a new sentence, I have to circle, I have to number. So it's kind of color-coded and it has numbers from number 1 to number 5, etc. And if I add a new word, then I have to put it on the side. So all new information is generated from what students see on the table of sentences. So while students can add any of the new words, I will highlight, circle, put numbers, and color code. If you look at figure B. Then students write, copy the new generated sentences, and continue to practice the reading. The next thing they do is they collaborate to match the information with the picture. And so in pairs now, they have to reread sentences and identify the cause and effects. You know, this one is for inflation. And by writing numbers in the correct columns. And again, this is another way of scaffolding. So we move on to class sharing, correction, and corrective feedback. So that is how this authentic resource was used. On Extempore, students complete individual work. They have 2 minutes, limited time frame by typing their answers. Some are empowered with prior activities, and they can now engage in identifying, analyzing, and interpreting the caricature on Extempore. They can enhance their interpretive writing skills by including descriptive sentences. So here we see have a cause and effect. What can be extensions? For the extension, which will be adaptations of the collaborative project and cultural comparison. So inspired by authentic resource, students create a poster that shows caricatures of chosen strikes in French-speaking country and the US. And then they compare similar situations to show cultural variations, behaviors, plus taking a stand and suggesting solutions, and giving opinions. My next authentic resource videos. This is a unit about holidays, and this is French 2. And the video is from Un Jour en Actu. It had New Year celebrations around the world, which provides a variety of subtopics, some brand new or some to review, such as cultural behaviors, beliefs, clothing, food, time, etc. So students learn about other countries with specific prepositions. In French, changes all the time, en, au, etc. And match it with the subtitles. So how can I get students ready to use this authentic resource? Students watch the video at least 2 times without the sound, similar to movie talk or video clips activity. They write down notes about what they see in French or shared language. I implement, so we have a TPS, then class discussion plus questioning, and then I open a Google Doc, share it on the projects, and the students now have to give me whatever they have as answers. And using the sentence phrase, I see, donc je vois, il y a. So you can hear students say, je vois, then he says candles, which means the student does not know the word in French. So notice here that the student needs that correct vocabulary. I will ask the class, and if there's no answer, then I have to say and write and type at the same time. Des bougies, une bougie, as you see on the left-hand side of the screen. So this is what the students see, and we type once and once. So now here you see the whole work already done, but it's step by step. If a student say danser, we have to put it in the context based on what we saw on the video. So that's how that scaffolding and adaptation was done. So with the countries, I implicitly teach the variation of the prepositions without making a whole lesson on that. And so it is in context, and students are using the language for something. It's not isolated. But notice how students and I co-construct the content in this case. They share their choices, and I facilitate their learning. I share the generated document as a PDF or printed, plus an audio format in Google Classroom. The student practice their listening. They can reread, they can highlight words, annotate, translate, and then they rewatch the video. But this time we have the sound, and they make choices and match event sentences, and then they choose the thinking map. It can be bridge, tree, whichever the one, to organize their presentation. The shared steps show the cultural exploration, which is an adaptation of the authentic resource. So here the students explore tradition, customs, and all of this is made accessible to students. On Extempore, students get into sync groups and they retell the events, present their thinking maps, and share their feelings about celebrations. They have reaction expressions, Sejenia, Super, etc. from the classmates. They have questions from their peers, at least one. And so empowering students through presentational and interpersonal communication. The extension for this activity, the students had to recircle, so we had to recycle their choices and make connections through comparison with celebrations in their families or in the US or any other country in the world. And this enriches different culture, perspective, and behaviors. At the end of the unit, we had a live 1-minute presentation. Infographic. There's someone that wrote infographic this time. So yes, I use that too. And so this one is about French landmarks and symbols, of course, activities. The adapted grammar activity here was le passé composé, the past tense. And the strategy here, I use affordables. You have it on the left-hand side of the screen. And so here the students had the verbs, because in French, it's a complex verb. Teach it in context, they have to think about the gender, the number. So my affordable was that adaptation for them to be able to understand the infographic, which had that tense. So extract identified sentences from the authentic resource and illustrate the grammar points done implicitly. Then a share slides that has the infographic. Student works in group compares. They analyze information on the infographic. And then you can see the picture on the right-hand side showing student work on, can they decode the gender, the number, and understand what activities the tourists were doing in those landmarks. So here the feedback is kind of immediate because I use in slides, and so it's just an activity loaded with scaffolding activities. On Extempore, student practice reading the tense with être. They discover French activities with regard to landmarks, and thus reinforcing reading through intonation and fluency. The extension was a mini project. The adaptation was cultural analysis. So students search other landmarks plus activities carried in those places. They identify differences and similarities. They use French-speaking countries and other countries of their choice. They create one kind of a time capsule of chosen landmarks of the past travels, and they can print or draw their work. No name is included. Pay attention here, no name is included because the follow-up is important for that. And so they insert their work in a jar or in a box, and then they leave it on that desk. Then I do the exchange. I have to exchange the jar or the box, placing it on a different student text. The last text here is to have students read and guess whose time capsule they were having on their desk. And then the follow-up with the recording, finding, guessing on the post-it, the names of the student that created the capsule. Commercials, as in French, la pub. So, of course, another great way to share insights, behaviors of native speakers. And for this activity, I put all on one slide here. And the students on Extempore had to retell a kind of chain of thought activity. They use, of course, emotions, peer feedback again, and improve their presentational skills. The choice board was the extension, plus a format of short video skit, the role play. So topics from previous lessons, students chose and wrote a short script or included their views on mass media in a critical way, you know, and this time it was around, you know, it was just again 1 minute. So how can we get them ready to extempore? I use movie talk for this. And of course, sentence frame sheet where the students had to complete their thoughts with the sentence frame. That's another adaptation. And so the student had to write the story from the commercials in sequence. They were showing their creativity. And at the end of the story, they had to share their opinions. Are they for using paper or are they all tech, etc.? So that is how this activity was done. Here you have an example of a student work. It's by the side, we have the worksheet that was given to them. Here we have a picture of the students on the sync room where they were talking about, anyway, retelling that story of the commercials. Of course, we had to. And so here students, it's student-centered and kind of empowered in their learning. Here we have an authentic, which is the text messages, video clips, etc. So to get students ready to read and interpret a text message and understand the exchange and interpret family relationship, because that is what the topic was. It was extended family. The example you see here is the background work that I did with the students. And so why do I use the share language? Is because the student they have to understand what they had to interpret in French. And so I kind of use reverse kind of mediation. Grant mentioned mediation yesterday. I love to do mediation. So the text here is in English and the French, the interpretation is done in French. So the student demonstrate understanding of what they are ready to do in the text message exchanges. Next, I use listening and reading activities for adaptations. And then I implement the IDW by using sentence streams. So look over here on the screen where it says, Robert says, and then this is what they have to interpret. So the student read the text message, and while reading the text message, they are interpreting the family relationships, the family vocab, the family words that they can identify or extract from what is said in the text messages. So after we've done this, they are ready to go to Extempore and show off. So on Extempore, the students share their interpretations with a partner. Reading and speaking skills are enhanced in this case. The extension here, students are given a text message template and they create or write their own text conversation that demonstrate a variety of family members' relationship. And then they have a choice to use either the family or just be creative if they don't want to, you know. Then they complete the templates that are assigned for another class, but then the same level. So the completed templates, I take them and I exchange the work with another class of the same level. And so So in their own turns to now they read and they have to identify from what their classmate generated by writing the family vocab that can be identified from the reading of the text messages. And of course, the creator will be the grader because we can do pair grading at that time. The next authentic resource is TV news. Of course, we can have that online. For this example, again, search and find infographics, which is on the left-hand side. That's an infographic that shows accessible information. So on the left, it shows the biodegradable objects in the sea, a perfect combination of visuals and text. You see, it's already adapted. The student will see the image and they have the word. So what can I do to have the student understand what they have to work with? I, as the teacher, I had to do the recording and we had to do the reading and then we had to create sentences. Now, behold, you'll be like, oh, that's a lot of sentences. No, it's group work. So we start with the listening, reading activity, by chunking the content, and students work in groups on assigned sections. I don't work in a month, weeks, or years, and the right sentences on a chart that show the meaning or the correct use of the vocabulary in context. The presentation, it's a form of competition. What group's gonna have it correct? So the sentences after that are glued on the wall by each group. The activity turns into a gallery walk. So the next step, students are ready to watch the selected French news, and the French news was talking about global warming. And here we have a selected segment of the news about global warming. And now I make it accessible to the students by adapting, you can adapt the speed of the video, a slower pace at the beginning, and then put it back to the normal pace, because students have to be exposed to the natural way, the spontaneous way of using the language. So students watch the French news and use the chats from the TV. I just snip the picture, put it in my... So on Extempore, the read and interpret the text, the percentages by using sentence frames and giving their point of views about global change. What are the solutions, the steps towards curbing this issue? And students are giving voices. They enhance their speaking skills through discussions in the sync rooms. And the extension here, they had to make a collage of their own biodegradable objects in their homes. And then they create a chart that shows analysis on the duration of percentage and suggesting solutions. And of course, the present to class when it's scheduled, when you have scheduled presentation. So yes, we do class presentation at that time. So, my dear participants, here are the takeaways. What's your mindset now? Did your meme change at this point? I want you to think about your content. What's your action plan in using authentic resources? Are you going to incorporate any of the shared information today, tomorrow, on Monday? School will soon start. So what are your plans about using authentic resources? You can access the curated list of authentic resources or repertoires through this, where it says click to access resources. It's a folder that I shared. And you can, of course, it has French. Those that teach other languages, you can, there are couples that you can go in and then you can, of course, adapt it to your own classes. So I think we are done with this presentation. Are there any questions? I want to thank all of you. And don't forget to complete the feedback form. I think Grant's gonna paste
Thank you, Dora. Yes, I'll be sure. I will include the feedback form in the chat right now.